Hello and welcome to another League of Legends commentary. So today I'll be playing Xin Zhao in the jungle. So let's get this sped up so we can, or not. Evidently I can't speed up the replay quite yet. There we go. Alright, there we go. It is now being sped up. So we can get this game started. I start Machete and 5 health pots as usual, and I definitely think that's usually the optimal route to go for a jungler. There has been some thought that you can possibly get a boots and 3 health pots, but that's much more of an all-in strategy. So if you can consider this, but it's much more all-in. Here this should have been a kill, but Blitz missed his hook, so I flashed and used my E to try to secure that kill for us, because as soon as we saw him I tried to flash on him and I got my E off so he was slowed, but unfortunately we couldn't get the kill there. This is really annoying now. So people think that, for some reasons, think that you can still just leash the jungler or something like that, and they don't realize that how much damage you take when this happens. If I really did need my team to help me there, otherwise I was gonna take crazy amounts of damage. And the other problem was that Blitz, I think he warded too late or something, because I went to my blue pretty much. I didn't go to my red first. I went towards my blue first to make sure that this didn't happen. But the ward didn't, come up, and it was the 1 minute ward instead of the 3 minute ward. It was just the ward that he should have used. So that was just an annoying mistake on his part. So my blue got stolen when it should not have gotten stolen there. And as you can see, the huge difference that leashing, and helping DPS down that the blue would have had is that I would have had way more health pots. Here I try to gank and it turns out horribly wrong. They get the first blood and we only get a kill, so that was just a bit of misplay on our part. I think I hit my spells on everyone that needed to get hit with, and sometimes this happens. Sometimes you start ganking and you just make it so much worse for your lane. I tried to gank Ryze like multiple times, and I shouldn't have used my dash there. I was spamming it, and sometimes you use your dash to spam it and it's especially bad like when it's near the tower, and you dash even though you've tried to stop dashing because you didn't issue a different movement command. Another thing that happens is a lot of times you can get counter jungled, and this is becoming frequently more common. And he could have gotten me really low, potentially killed me there if he got his taunt off. So that was potentially really bad. And a lot of times when you see them in the jungle, you want to fight them. But if you don't know where everyone is, then you should be very cautious about that. I had to go back. The thing that usually happens when that, they're up in your jungle and stuff like that, is they do your red, and it's really annoying. And your team needs to do something about it. It's very hard for you to prevent that from happening just by yourself, because usually when they're doing your red, like everyone on their team knows what's going on, and they also have like a good idea where your team is, so like you usually can't stop that by yourself, especially if you're behind. But it does depend on the jungle. A common jungler that does this is Nunu. He'll live in your jungle, and it's really frustrating to deal with. You can't. It's hard because he's strong early game, but then he just becomes like a support jungler late game. So I'm telling Jax that I'm gonna go in, and this was very risky on my part. Rengar is 6 here, and he could have just gotten away or killed Jax if I hadn't responded in time. Jax should have probably died there, and I don't know that it would have been as long as I push the lane in, I think it's okay to do that. But I think it was still very risky. It could have easily turned into just getting Jax killed, and you can do this pretty often as the jungler. You can, like I said before, bot lane, you can mess up their lanes. So especially with the new jungle, you have to be even more thoughtful about how you gank, because you can just turn games that were you were behind, you can make everyone just even more behind. And the other reason that you should be more thoughtful is you get so much more gold and XP from the jungle. So wasting time on ganks and things like that is a huge cost now. I saw that Shen was bot, and this is something that you should try to work into your jungling, in your jungling abilities. If you see that the jungler is bot, you can have a good idea of when the timing was. I knew when this timing was because I had killed it, but blue, it usually spawns around 7:20, a little bit later now probably because of the new jungling. It might spawn around 7:40. It really depends on what their route was, but if you see them bot, you can I just was going to put a ward there because I knew it was safe to do, but it would have been really risky to put that ward there if I didn't know where Shen is. But again, if you see them bot, you can put the ward down and then, counter jungle them. So again, like let's say like Shen was ganking top. I can respond by countering his jungle and stealing his wraiths and things like that. And also counter jungling really hurts now. So if you're a jungler, you really want to work that into your gameplay, because counter jungling, you only have to steal one creep, and that's what everyone was doing before. But now that one creep is worth, the major boss in the camp is worth so much more. This is pretty annoying. A lot of times when I'm doing the blue and I want my caster to come, and they just don't come. So like either I have to take lots of damage for them, or take their blue. And like I was pinging it, and I think like it really depends on what your ELO is, but when you ping blue, like your lane needs to get pushed so that they can take blue without getting their stuff pushed into tower and lose like waves and XP and stuff like that. So if you're a mid player, you should, like either like if it's lower ELO, you can communicate with your jungler. If it's not, you don't have to, because hopefully they'll know. But if they don't, you can just tell them like, okay, when I ping blue, that means that you need to push the lane, so you don't get denied XP and gold on the tower. So that's just something you should do as a mid player to make life easier for the jungler, so that they don't have to tank and wait for you and lose gold and XP by hanging out at blue, just getting smacked by the gold. And it makes your life easier because you're gonna get blue, and jungler's gonna give it to you. So when you're ganking this lane, there are a bunch of different routes that you can take. As you can see, you can come down through this river or this river, and I think a lot of times the better route is to come from behind here because it gives them less reaction time. So if you come up through this way or this way, then again you can gank much more easily. As far as ganking this lane, it can be difficult. It really depends how aggressive the mid player is. And if he's really aggressive, it's obviously very easy to gank him. If he's not, then it's much more difficult. And this Ryze was playing like pretty aggressive, but for some reason, whenever I was there, and he doesn't even have wards or anything, whenever I was there, he wasn't playing aggressive. So I guess it's just map sense, or something. I don't know what was going through his mind, but like he played very well to my ganks this game, and it costs you a lot. Like a lot of junglers like the excitement of ganking, but it really does cost you a lot to do that. The problem with ganking Rengar is that he can go invisible, as you saw in that fight right there. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't gank him, because you're basically wasting his ulti when you're doing it. Yeah, it sucks that you can't kill him, but you make it a lot harder for him to kill your lane. So, you should still gank Rengar if you're like, within reason, even if like that they have an annoying ulti that makes him hard to gank. So that's just something you should consider in your gameplay. Alright, I'm continuing in my jungle. I usually start Spirit Stone in my jungle. I like it a lot. It gives you a lot of stats that are really great for jungling. Obviously, it makes it quicker to clear camps. As you can see, it does 20% more damage to monsters. So, whatever my base damage is, or, base damage that I'm doing, it's 86. I'm going to do 20%. So, like, oh man, I can't do math when I'm casting. It's so sad. It's like 21 extra gold. No, I fell. Oh god. I can't do math while I'm casting. Another fight here. Okay, I'm going to slow it down so I can do this math. 16. There we go. I did it. It's about 16 to 17. Well, 17, so that's 85. Yeah, that was pretty sad. Anyway, basically, it's going to give me an extra 17 damage to monsters, and even more with my abilities. So it's 17 base damage. You shouldn't waste your time trying to camp lanes if you don't know if it's warded, or if you do know it's warded. For instance, like, I didn't know if this was here, so I shouldn't try to camp. So, like, bot lane might complain that you're not ganking, but it just, they're not understanding what the cost of the team is for you to gank. The cost of the team is that you're going to get weaker because you're not, getting jungle creeps, and it also makes the other lanes be able to play more aggressively. So that is the problem with ganking a lane that is definitely warded. So as bottom lane, you really need, if you want ganks, you really need to keep track of where they're warding, so you can tell the jungler, okay, here's the route that they can come, and you should come this route. It's a free route. We can be aggressive on them. We know where and that's something we should do. But if you don't do that and you expect the jungler to do that, then that is just making it, you're asking something very unreasonable from the jungler, and don't be surprised if he just doesn't want to do it. Like, players are definitely selfish in this game in that they try to do what's best for them to get the most kills and things like that. But you can use that selfishness to your benefit, and the selfishness is also rational. So the rational sense in that it helps your team is that the farther you get ahead, the more powerful your team is. So like if I get really farmed in a game, then I'm going to help my team out a lot more in team fights. So that's just something that you need to consider. Like it's not just selfishness. It's like the selfishness isn't irrational and like completely irrational. Obviously some players just don't like helping their team, and it sucks when you get players like that. But that being said, you want to try to do things that are that you can utilize the selfishness of your team to like help yourself out. So like the example here was that you use the selfishness of the jungler wanting to get his own jungle by keeping track of wards so he can know whether it's safe or not to gank. This game, I'll give you guys a couple seconds to think about it, but why don't just think about like what is the most important thing for me to stack this game, and it's actually going to be magic resist. And the reason it's magic resist is, one, Ryze does a lot of AoE burst damage, so I need to negate some of that. So Bulwark would have also been a good choice, and I maybe should have rushed that instead of the items I got. And the obviously Urgot's an AD caster, so like his damage does AD. And then that's basically all their damage. Rengar is going to do mostly physical damage, but it really depends on what he's getting. So that's why I stack magic resist mostly in this game. And I don't build straight magic resist items, like for instance the Banshee's Veil is a straight magic resist item. It gives you health in only magic resist. I build damagey magic resist items. This was a mistake on my part, and definitely our team's too. As you saw there, Nunu, he used his ulti, and then we ran back in to his ulti when we had gotten out of his ulti, and it did lots of damage to us. So we should have just not done that. Like the team fight decision was definitely right. I focused down Urgot, and I don't know who the rest of my team focused down, but it was definitely right. Maybe someone should have tried to cancel Nunu's ulti. I should have probably stayed my R until Nunu was ulti, so I could have canceled that. But yeah, like it was mostly like a good decision, but it was just poorly executed, and that can be really frustrating. Like a lot of times you'll make a good decision, and I had like a bunch of games today where I saw like that people were out of position and our team could totally capitalize on it, but sometimes your team doesn't recognize that, and you dive in and you're like, and your team is just like walks around and doesn't do anything, and you just die, and it's like super frustrating. You're like, oh, like I saw this great play here, and I wanted you guys to come in and also capitalize on it, but they don't recognize it in time, and this just kind of sucks about solo queue. Here Urgot is just dead. He got caught and died. Like the only way he could have gotten away from that is by just not getting caught with Blitz's Q, but like there was no way he could have avoided it because Blitz didn't throw out his Q too early. And that also showed you an important thing to do, is that if you're fighting under the tower, and this is pretty common, you don't want to stick around and just die too much. You want to secure the kill, obviously, but again, I could have tried to do a couple extra damages and done a kill steal on our team, but I would have just died from that. As you saw, I was only one tower shot away from dying. So when you're fighting under towers, don't be greedy about it. Here I had bad reaction times. We could have killed Rengar if I had turned around and eat him as soon as I saw him. So that was just bad play on my part. Okay, so we're continuing along. You definitely want to secure these objectives because not only are they worth a fair amount of gold, they're also worth a lot of XP. Okay, I tried to go in twice, and the first time he didn't respond in time, but he did the second time. And I should have definitely been more aware of like how Talon is acting in this game. This went really badly. I've been trying a lot more to go to my team when we have team fights, and not farm in the jungle, and I think that's a mistake that a lot of people make. If I thought that Talon was going to come, and I pinged it a bunch, and again, that was just showing you, like, okay, this guy's just not very trustworthy. He doesn't really respond to team fights that well, and he's like, he overfarms. So I just have to keep that in mind, and it's really hard to adapt your team play, because when they do respond, then you can make great plays, and you should definitely capitalize on it. It makes, you know, your team makes great plays. So you just have to recognize the team members that are trustworthy and can, you know, back you up in team fights. Let's take a look at my item choices. This guy has double Black Cleaver, which sucks. You shouldn't get it. It's just the passives do stack in a sense in that they charge up twice as fast, but it doesn't go above, you know, 30%. So, you know, just don't stack Black Cleaver, I think. Even though it's a great item, I don't think you should stack it. Again, I'm going on the tanky / magic resist / damage route. So there are items that let you get magic resist and damage. Here, basically you saw there that we almost killed him. So that's just something that you should keep in mind. Like, yeah, I had to flash there. If I hadn't flashed and kill stolen there, Jax would have died. So that was totally worth it. So yeah, like, don't think there's anything wrong with securing kills. You know, like, it would have been way worse if I was like, okay, Jax got him, I don't want to waste my flash, I don't want to kill steal, so I'm not going to flash, and Jax just dies. Like, that would have just been like, that's obviously a way worse outcome. Alright, so I've got two DPS items. One thing to note is that you kind of want to stagger when you buy attack speed and damage. So if you only buy damage, then you're going to do less DPS than if you bought a mix of attack speed and damage. So think of it as a percentage increase. The reason that thinking about it as a percentage increase is the best way to think about it is because the DPS at its simplest is a combination of damage times your attack speed. So obviously the more damage you have and the faster your attack speed, you can maximize either of them, the more damage you'll do. However, since it's a multiplicative, that means that you can, this is obviously a good fight for us, and you can see even though it's a 4v5, we can totally destroy them because one Rengar wasn't there, so it was definitely right, and Rengar basically wasted his ulti, and you can see how important getting the combination of resistances and also damage. So this is what I built standard against AP heavy teams, and it works really well, but I haven't really found an equivalent for mixed damage or AD heavy teams. So that's just something I need to figure out a better build, but this build is great for facing AP heavy teams. Like, you just become like amazingly tanky and you still do plenty of damage. So that's really what the end goal is for a Bruiser. You want to be super tanky and still be able to put out, you know, a reasonable amount of damage. Obviously, it's not going to be the same as an AD carry, but that's your goal. You want to be tanky enough so that you can get up in the middle of the team fight and not die if like a couple of people attack you, and then also still do enough damage. Now, late game, I think it's like Bruiser becomes very difficult in the sense that it becomes much easier for the enemy team to focus you down and kill you. So if you make a mistake on how you engage, you get really, really punished for it. Whereas the AD carry doesn't have to worry about that much. He can, you know, okay, I'm just gonna stand back. I don't have to engage any team fights. That's Bruiser's job, or the tank. And so his role doesn't really get that much harder later game, but like he basically does the same thing all game. But the Bruiser's role like becomes very different late game, and it's like pretty hard to adapt to that. So some more team fights there. I'm trying to find a good balance between speeding up the replay to make it more concise and then not missing any action. And I think I'll just get better at that over time. So, you know, any feedback you guys have is always useful for me to do. Here we have the choice between getting an inhib and doing Baron. They're both good. The problem with doing the inhib is that they're going to respawn after we kill the inhib. Here I'm trying to get my other teammates members to tank it so I don't die. I probably could have died if Baron had done his AoE. Anyway, so the problem with doing the inhib first is that we're going to be all low, and they can potentially rush Baron after we do that. The problem with doing Baron first is that it doesn't give us as much map control as doing the inhib does, and it doesn't make pushing all the other lanes as easy. So these are the trade-offs. You have to look at the specific team comps that you're facing, and if it's like an AoE heavy team that can really clear the waves, it makes it really hard to push, then you want to do the inhib first. You know, if it's a bunch of single, you know, a poke team, then doing Baron first is great. You can just basically ignore their poke and siege up their tower. So, you know, that's just the consideration that you need to make when doing Baron. So I buy this item. I don't know how I feel about it. It's really expensive, and it does give tenacity. So when I don't get tenacity from other sources, I definitely try to get it, you know, from this thing, because if I'm the jungler. And as a bruiser, you should definitely value tenacity pretty high. Tenacity is very important because you're going to take a huge amount of the CC, and if you get stunned and can't do anything, then you can't do anything, obviously. So, you know, the AD carry doesn't need tenacity as much because he's standing in the back. He's not going to eat that much CC, but you're standing in the front line, and you're going to eat lots of CC, so the tenacity is obviously very important. Here, Jax kind of gets caught, and we could have just let him die. I remember like fighting there and thinking, oh shoot, Jax just caught. But when that happens, you just have to go in like really hard. So obviously it's not always the case. There are some cases where, you know, you shouldn't go in really hard, but in that case, definitely going hard was the choice. So if you're ahead, then going hard is usually not too bad. But you shouldn't just let teammates die. So like when teammates get picked, you can either just let them do nothing and die, do nothing and let them die, or you can, you know, go hard. So, you know, that's just a choice that you have to evaluate. So I hope you guys enjoyed the replay. Please remember to like, subscribe, and comment. That really helps me out a lot. I appreciate it when you guys do that. And let me know if you guys have any future ideas for replays. You can leave it in the comment section below.